What's up guys, my name is Sam and I work under the artist name of Kayo, producing and releasing lo-fi music on all streaming platforms. Today I'm going to be breaking down how I made this dreamy lo-fi track that you're kind of hearing in the background now. I'll play a section of the track for you now and then we'll jump into the project file to see what's going on. So as you can hear, it's got a really kind of dreamy, almost ambient vibe, but it's not a slow, sleepy lo-fi track. It's sort of upbeat, it's got this dream hop-esque vibe to it. So let's jump into that project file and we'll see what's going on. So I started this track with a drone sound. I wanted to get that kind of pad underlayer of the whole vibe built before everything else and then build up. Let's take a listen to how this pad sounds and then we'll break down what's going on. So it's just a super warm atmospheric pad that's just kind of serving as that underneath for the whole track. You've got a C major here going into an A minor chord, but we've removed some of the notes to kind of add a bit of interest. And then a bit later on the second run through, we've added in extra notes to keep the pad interesting so it doesn't get too stale in the background. And as the song builds, the pad kind of builds with it and you'll see that happen. After we had that pad sound, I moved on to the chords. This is usually where I start my tracks, and this is sort of the main element for the track. Let's take a listen to the chords and then we'll break down how I built these. So as you can see, these aren't just straight up chords being played throughout the track. To start these chords, I took that same chord from our pad and then I put the C major chord in here and found my chord C major into a G major, then back up into that C major, and then into that A minor chord, same as the drone. And then to make these have the movement that I really wanted, I moved all of the notes along. So we actually start with the C and the A, and then it kind of, the chords build, they have that little bit of movement. It's almost like a strum effect going on here and just adding some different intonations to the chords. And then the same as the pad in the second half of this pattern, it gets slightly more interesting with different notes coming in and just a little bit more movement. So those two together sound really nice to sound like this. Once I had those down, I knew that I needed to add some higher frequencies to the track. So I then added this melody here. This is just the same piano, the Labs Soft Piano plugin that we're using. I turned the reverb up quite a lot and then added some notes in a higher octave on top of those chords to just add a little bit of interest, add a little bit more movement. Let's see how that sounds with the piano and the drone. So as you can hear, there's definitely some processing going on there. So if I pull in my mixer, let's take a look to see what is going on with that piano. Like I said, I upped the reverb on the actual VST, and then what we've got here is the Valhalla Supermassive just on the default preset, and that adds a nice bit of delay, a nice bit of echo, and also a nice bit of warmth onto that melody. Once we had that down, I knew this track needed some guitar, so that was the next element that I moved on to. As you can see here, the melody has got quite a lot going on, but let's take a listen to see how this guitar sounds on its own. So we've got an EQ on there taking off all of the highs, all of the lows. So we're just getting those middle frequencies. Then another Valhalla Supermassive on the default preset again, but I tweaked it ever so slightly. So the mix is a little bit lower and the feedback and the density are a little bit different. And then we just have a Fruity Love filter on the default preset. And as you can see here, the Valhalla Supermassive is actually turned down. If I turn it all the way up, you'll hear it gets a bit too much. So you see there where multiple notes play with the reverb up too high, it just all gets a bit muddled and gets a bit messy. So if we turn that down, it just sits in the mix really nicely. Once I had that guitar, I knew we needed something just to sit underneath that to add some real movement to the track. So I added this muted strat. All this is doing is just playing that C major chord, and we're just changing the top note every bar to keep it a little bit interesting. Let's take a listen to how that sounds, and then we'll play everything all together so that you can hear all of the different instruments. And again, all we have on here is an EQ cutting off those highs, rolling off those lows, and then a Valhalla Supermassive. But the difference with this one is I've turned the mix all the way up, so this is pretty much just the wet frequency, and then the feedback and the density are both turned up, so this is really drowned in that reverb to add that nice airy effect to it. And it's only sitting really low in the mix. This is just adding that movement and that space to the track. So let's take a listen to how everything sounds all together now. Really nice, really warm, starting to get that atmosphere, the instruments stacking on top of each other really nicely. The next thing that I moved on to was the bass. Really simple, it's just following those root notes. And as you can see here, I actually doubled up the bass, so we're playing it on the 4th scale and the 5th scale here, just so it has that kind of the warmth from the lower frequencies, but it's got that kind of mid oomph from the higher frequency there. And that just adds the warmth to the track. Once we had all of our instrumentation done, I moved on to the drums. So we start here with a kick, and then let's add in a snare. Double that up with a rim, and then a shaker. Then the last piece of this is a foley that hits. And all of those sounds are from the Mondo Loops Organic Lo-Fi kit, and it just sounds really nice in context with the rest of this track. The final piece here is just a distant voices ambience that sits under the track and just adds a bit more of that space and just a bit more atmosphere to the track. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's take a listen to the track here with the drums, with the bass, and see how it all sounds together. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can hear, it's got a really nice, dreamy, atmospheric sound, and I'm really happy with how this beat's come together. I'm not sure if it's quite finished yet, but I think I am going to finish it and probably will be releasing this soon, so let me know what you think about that. Or if you'd like me to release this, let me know in those comments. So I'm just going to play through this whole section of the track one more time, but thank you for watching, and make sure to drop a comment or subscribe if you like this video.